So we're entering into the season that is really, really interesting for me. And I mean the next 18 months involving a presidential election. And the reason for that is because I study leadership and I talk to people about leadership all the time. And during the season of presidential politics, which goes back for me a number of years, as you can see, I've got a gray beard. I've been doing this for a while. I routinely ask people, who are the leaders that truly transcend? And you know, there aren't very many, to be really honest. But the one that comes up over and over again over the years has, interestingly enough, been Colin Powell. Now, hopefully you all know the former general, chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Secretary of State. The amazing thing about talking to people about Colin Powell is they will say, essentially, there's something about that guy. And I will say, well, what do you mean? And they'll say, well, I don't know, Ron. There's something about him, and it's not the uniform, and it's not the title, and he's just got something going on. And then I'll probe some more, and they'll say things like, well, you know, he very likely could have been the first Black president, but he declined because of commitments he had made to his wife and family. And they said, that tells us he's got an ego that's right-sized. He's also the only leader from that whole difficult time in the Middle East who admitted to any failings, the only senior leader in America who acknowledged any failings. And they go, man, that's something. And then they'll tell me about his speaking skill. I mean, really, really an amazing thing. So he stands head above many, many other potential candidates for some very particular reasons, which is what I want to explore this morning about this idea of the transformational leader. Now, in order to do that, I need to first of all call y'all out or call you up. It requires some discomfort. Hopefully somebody told you somewhere along the way that you won't learn anything new in your comfort zone. That's because if you're in your comfort zone, you're only doing what you already know how to do. And as leaders coming into your roles, it is a chance for you to stretch yourself and get uncomfortable. So I talk a lot about becoming a transformational leader, and the framework I'm going to show you lays down a path with some suggestions on the back end for how you may be able to think about this. I talk about an ascending path of becoming this leader. It looks like this. And there's no surprise that there's a big red dot right at what we call the inflection point, where the slope changes. We go from this to this. That's exponential growth. And we're going to talk about why that is. But first, you have to understand the first part of the developmental curve. It begins like this. Some of you will notice this is drawn somewhat from John Maxwell's work and also Jim Collins' work, but I've reframed it. A first-degree leader, which is a beginning point. You got the position. You have been named the treasurer. Congratulations. That means you have a position. It doesn't mean anything more than that. And people will follow you because you hold the position. Okay, you've been named a club president. It's a position. It's not unlike being named a CEO or a chief executive officer of any kind. So you hold the position and people will follow you because you hold the position. It's the first degree because it's actually the lowest effectiveness holding the position. A second degree leader is because of something about you. You might be likable. You might be supportive. You might be inspirational. People will follow you because of who you are and what your style is. And again, this is great. And you might be likable and you might have the position. You might have the position and not be likable. It can be any mix. There's not a right. There's not a wrong. These are reasons that people might or will follow you. A third degree leader, which is the one we are mesmerized by in the culture and certainly in Toastmasters, is credentials. Might follow you because you're a past district director. They might follow you because you are a president and you have achieved DTM multiple times over. They might follow you because you have shown that you have a master's degree, a doctorate degree. You might have publications. You might have books. This is all just fine. It's a reason to follow someone. And again, you may have all three of these. You might have a PhD and be a lovely human being and be the president of your club. Those are reasons to follow. You could also have degrees and not be likable and not have a position, and people might still follow you because you have those degrees, publications, etc. It's all good. It's all fine. They're degrees of leadership. And we refer to these, well, let's see if we can get my slide deck to work. There we go. We refer to these as developmental stages. So in other words, you need to learn about taking positions. You need to learn about your personality, your style, how you come across. You need to figure out what degrees, what credentials, etc. It's all fine. It's all good. And they are developmental. Again, I'm going to ask those of you who aren't muted to please mute yourself, especially so don't get any echoes. That brings us up to the crux. And you will note the offensive language at the top, which is intentional. The crux is where we get over ourselves. We get over our degrees, our personality, the fact that we hold the title, or at least hopefully we get over ourselves. I just found a quote this week that I'd not seen before that I really loved. And it comes from someone that we don't normally think of as a leader. It says this: a leader sees greatness in other people. You can't be much of a leader if all you see is yourself. That comes courtesy of Maya Angelou, who I do think of as a leader, but not at all a traditional one, a very wise woman, very capable. She also happens to be really illustrative of often what happens for people in the crux. The crux is defined by breakdowns, by tragedy, by difficulty, by failure. Maya Angelou had a terribly difficult childhood, which included some rape and violence. She went silent for 5 years, and yet what came out of that was a voice of remarkable distinction, someone who leads through the power of what happened to her. So I'm not going to tell you that you have to have a train wreck in your life to go through the crux. I am going to tell you that you probably are going to have to be challenged. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to fail. We all know this, failing forward, failing upward. We all know this, and yet we are catastrophically avoidant of making mistakes, failing, looking bad. One of my favorite tricks on this was when I was presenting live at a conference some years back, where I intentionally tripped going up on the stage. It was deliberate. I did go all the way down onto my knee. It was deliberate because it set the scene for screwing up. Intentional screwing up is a way to practice getting over yourself. It will help you stay humble and get you grounded, and you may just have the opportunity to get past yourself. So we're going to come back to this a little bit more, but you'll notice this is where the transition occurs. A fourth degree leader will be followed because of the benefits people derive from you and your leadership. The most common framework is servant leadership. I'm not doing this because of me. Did you hear that? That's getting over ourselves. This isn't about me. This is about you. And if you're good at providing for others, people will follow you remarkably well because of the benefits they derive. The problem is you got to get your ego out of the way to make it truly about them. Let me just tell you this. Your state, our country, is filled with people who call themselves public servants. They tell us that they're doing it because they care about you, but they act like someone who is utterly personally vested in themselves. Thomas Jefferson said, we need leaders who are impassioned and, quote, disinterested. He meant that they have gotten over themselves, that they're working for something beyond themselves. Servant leadership is incredibly powerful. And again, people follow you. And by the way, you might have degrees, you might have the position, you might be likable, but they're following you because of the explicit benefits that they derive from following you. It's a win for them. Oftentimes, servant leaders give credit away all the time. They're also the ones who are uncomfortable with applause on a stage. They would much rather have the applause go elsewhere. That sets up a fifth degree leader. I refer to this as the embodied leader. And this is where we come back around to our good friend, General Colin Powell. When people start saying there's something about them, I mean, it might be their values. It might be that they have particular principles they live by. It may be that they are so mission-oriented. This is the realm of Mr. Emerson's quote, "Who you are speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say." Literally, we become embodied. Something happens through us. This is not uncommon in the faith field, where somebody has had deep and profound changes inside themselves, sometimes very difficult changes, not an uncommon story. Abraham Lincoln was said to have probably had terrible chronic pain his whole life, which may be why he could bear up in such difficult times as the Civil War. Imagine living with chronic pain, setting the scene for you being able to hold difficult space for very, very difficult things. I'm not wishing pain on any of you. It's merely one more illustration. There is no formal degree for this. We can't teach you this. You can't get this in an MBA. You can't get this as a DTM. You can't get this as an officer. You can get it by getting over yourself, which is going to require something more than completing the assignments, something more than reading the book. We're going to have to deeply work with ourselves on our insides, because as within, so without. If you want externalized, incredible impression, effect, you have to do the interior work, which is why it often creeps into spiritual space. That sets up the sixth degree, or nth degree. N is taken out of math and physics. It means that it's unbounded. Nth degree leaders establish transformative outcomes, probably because they have been transformed. The most modern day illustration of this is probably Nelson Mandela. 27 years falsely imprisoned. Something transformed him from being perceived as a terrorist to being one of the most transformative leaders we have seen in the past several hundred years. Interestingly enough, he was unable to transfer that capacity to those who have followed him. I want to say that again. He couldn't transfer it because those who followed him didn't do the interior work that it made it possible for them to lead that way. No fault on him. Remarkable capacities that he brought forth. And I was actually in Robben Island some years ago, just off the coast of Cape Town. And I went and looked at that little 10 by 12 space that he spent 27 years in, breaking rocks 6 days a week. And that did something to his insides that brought forth something remarkable. And it's very uncommon. We refer to these as the transformational or transcendent stages. Now I'm going to go all Abraham Maslow on you. Maslow called it self-realization. Not self as in, oh, gee, Judith, you have a name and you're a good-looking woman and you are you got a position and all of that, but something bigger than Judith the self. It's that interior self. Some of you might consider this the soul of your being. That's fine. Maslow said, we have within us something that is unbounded and can be realized and manifest, but you can't do it through a curriculum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're interested is this idea of self-realization as a leader, et cetera. Here's some of what you can do about this. Fearless self-assessment. Fearless self-assessment stings. This is where people tell you things that are not going to be comfortable to hear. They're not merely going to whitewash you and gussy up your ego. They're going to tell you what you need attention, and they're going to give full credit for where you're brilliant. You're going to have to solicit feedback from people who are going to tell you the truth. For years, I have been asking people for feedback. I speak pretty well. I lead pretty well. I'm a pretty darn good consultant, facilitator, and trainer, but I want to be better. And that means I got to know where I missed the mark. Use developmental platforms, not for credentials, but for all the growth and development. I'm going to use a particular example in the Toastmasters portfolio. It is, in my opinion, our best offering, the high performance leadership package. There are lots of people who play small ball with that. They decide they're going to do it to run an area contest. That's great. Run an area contest. The one I liked the best was where someone used HPL for 18 months to transform a not-for-profit in the community. That's a high performance leadership project. Using the Toastmasters program to really put it out there and really perform and learn in remarkable ways. And HPL is a good one. High performance leadership, it's built into the Pathways program. Look wherever you have to find teachers and tools. You might find them in Toastmasters. You might have to go elsewhere. Maxwell's a good source. Jim Collins is a good source. There are great spiritual leaders to follow. Go where you have to find what you need. And when you work with others, focus on their benefit, not yours. One of my best assignments from my mentor was to become a hospice volunteer because, quote, Ron, in order for you to take care of someone who's dying, you're going to have to put yourself completely aside because they're dying. Expecting anything from them would be not only foolish, it would be damaging to them. What a humbling moment. He had seen in me that I had too much ego, it was getting in the way, and I spent years being a hospice volunteer helping people die. And it was humbling as could be because my self-importance kept getting in the way. So that was a really, really good example of being challenged in a pretty extraordinary way. So what I'd like you to do now is I want you to take a few minutes of self-reflection, which means I'm going to be quiet for just a couple of minutes. A strange thing for a platform speaker, right? I want you to reflect. Where are you in your development? What have you done for the pieces of getting over yourself? Where can you go for the most valuable feedback in the world that, yes, acknowledges you, but also calls you up? How can you get more game into your Pathways project so you're not just completing the assignment, but really getting all the juice out of the squeeze you can? What are you going to do to not just dial your officer role in, to actually try and transcend yourself for much greater benefit beyond yourself? How will you use today's training? If you're here just to get a check mark, just tell yourself the truth. There's lots of us who do that. I understand that. Or are you here to truly have a chance to become a transformational leader, in which case you're going to participate in a much different way? Some of these are harsh possibilities, but if someone doesn't tell us the truth, we're not going to know. So now I'm going to be silent for a minute or so. I would encourage you to write some of your truth down. I'll be silent now for just a couple moments. Hopefully, something you write will cause you to wince. Now write one thing you're going to do today that's going to make all the difference in the world for you here at this training. Just one thing. Here's what the research shows. If you wrote something down, the likelihood you will actually benefit from it goes up dramatically. If you didn't write anything down, you will under-realize the potential of the day. That's what the research shows without equivocation. So discomfort, it's a given. So let me do a little bit of self-disclosure, because I speak well. This is pretty cool content. Judith wouldn't have invited me, which again, thank you, Judith, if she didn't think I had some value to contribute. But here's what you need to know about why this framework matters to me. 37 years ago, I blew my life up with alcoholism. I'm coming up on my 38th year of sobriety. I lost my career. I lost my spouse. I lost all of my savings. I very nearly lost my life because of mental health issues that led to suicidal ideation. I'm not here today because I walked a tulip-covered path. I'm not here today because I think it's necessarily easy. I'm here today because countless people reached out and saved me from myself. I am not a self-made man. There are not self-made people. We stand on the shoulders of giants, they say. We are here because someone taught us the language. Someone fed us and clothed us. Someone taught us. Someone called forth things within us. Many of us have screwed up many, many things, and we need to own those and be better for them. Some of us have done stellar things. We need to own those too, because we do some things remarkably well. But it is the space of our discomfort that will make all the difference in the world.